Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be going over LeetCode 169 majority element. This is yet another video as part of my raw and authentic LeetCode walkthroughs playlist, where I essentially will go through problems without having looked at the question or the solution or anything like that, where I just essentially just try to solve it, and you can kind of see how my thought process works. So today I picked an easy, given an array nums of size n, return the majority element. The majority element is the element that appears more than floor division of n over 2 times. You may assume that the majority element always exists in the array. So here we can see it is a majority element if it exists, if the number appears more than, the length is 3, over 2 is 1.5, so if the element appears more than one time, it is the majority element. In that case, that's 3. Here, the length is 7. So 7 over 2 is 3.5. Floor division would be 3. So any element that appears more than 3 times is the majority, and that is 2. It appears 4 times here. So I think what we have to do is, for this question, we have to find some way where we can have all the numbers and we can have them all paired with the number of times that they appear, and if the number of times that they appear is greater than the floor division of n over 2, then we return that value. So what I will do is I will use a Python dictionary to solve this problem. So I will create a dictionary called appearances, and basically in this I will write down, I will have a key. How Python dictionaries works is there's a key and a value pair. So the key will be the number and the value will be the number of appearances, the number of times that that element appears in the list. So for now I'll just have it be empty, and then also what we need is we need to find what the majority is. So in this case, the majority is going to be, it has to be greater than this. So n is just the length nums over 2. This double division sign is just the floor division operator. So now what I should do is I should go through the list with a for loop. So I'll say for num in nums. So right now our dictionary is empty. You might hear these called hash tables in other languages, but in Python a hash table is called a dictionary. Hash table is more of a broader coding term. So for each num, basically if the number is not in appearances, we are going to add it to appearances, and we're going to have the key is going to be whatever num we have, and the value is going to be 1 because we saw it for the first time. And then basically if we see it again, we're just going to simply increment it to 2. And then if this number is larger than majority, then we return the num. And of course this can have multiple numbers. So if num in, we'll do the version where it's in already, where it's already in appearances. So if it's already in appearances, then we should go to do appearances nums, and we'll add 1 to it. Okay, like I said, if we have, say, if we've seen the number, let's say we've seen the number 3 twice, if we see it again, we want it now to say that we've seen it 3 times in here. So we're just going to increment it by 1. Alright, and then else, so that means we didn't see it. That means we want to initiate it to 1, because like the hash map or the dictionary doesn't know what to initiate. Sorry, equals 1. Yeah, so this automatically will just initiate like a 3, and then it will be paired to a 1. And then what we want to do is we want to say, okay, well, if this value is greater than the majority, then we should return the number. Oh, by the way, for num, this should be num. not nums. So we'll say if the value is in, sorry, if this value right here, I notice, I'm gonna say this here, but I notice that we have quite a bit of repetition here. So maybe I'll put like a little variable so that we're not repeating code, because then it's gonna have to keep diving into that when we could just, oh, actually no, this does not work. That does not work. Oh yeah, because you're updating the value. Sorry, you can't do that. My bad. So if, yeah, no, because this, you're looking at like the, maybe you can. I'm not entirely sure if you can. Maybe we can try it. But appearances num, if we set it to some variable and we incremented the variable, it would increment the variable, but the variable would now be different from whatever this value is. Yeah, that's probably how it would work, but we can maybe try it after we've solved this problem. So if the number appears more than the majority times, then what we can do is we can return num. Now, we don't have to really have an else, because eventually this is going to be true, since you may assume that the majority element always exists in the array. So this should already work, hopefully. Let's try. Okay, perfect. Okay, let me try submitting this and see how this works. Okay, beautiful. So this goes through each element and either adds it to appearances or it increments the value, and then eventually it checks back. So it goes through each element in the list once, so it should be O of n for time complexity. Now, okay, I don't think this is gonna work, but I do just wanna check to see how this would work. Shouldn't work. I don't think it will, but let's see if like maybe the way that it works in Python is a bit different. Yeah, so oh wait. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I guess you just like can't do that. It just like doesn't work. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, well, fun fact. So yeah, this is the code. So essentially, let me just run this, that it shows the test cases working here. So essentially what'll happen is, let's do this as a test case here, okay? So we have a dictionary. I'll explain it real quick here. So we have a dictionary here, okay? So what's gonna happen is we're gonna have 1 with some value here, and then we're gonna have 2 with some value here, okay? I'll get to that in just a moment. But basically, what's gonna happen is, you're saying the majority in this case is, so the length of nums, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Floor division over 2 would bring it to 3, okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go through appearances. Sorry, we're going to go through the nums. And basically, here, every number that we see, we're either going to add it to this as a 1 and initialize it, or we're going to add 1 to the value for that key. If that makes sense. So for instance, here we're gonna see 2. So 2 is not in appearances. So we're just gonna, sorry, it's not, this is not true. So we're just gonna go straight to this, and that'll be 2 is being initialized to 1. You see that? Appearances num is 2 in this case, is initialized to 1. Okay. Then what's going to happen is we're going to come to this 2, and this is obviously not true because 1 is not greater than 3, so nothing's going to happen there. But eventually what's going to happen is we're going to get to this 2, and then it's going to say, oh, well, we know that the num is already in appearances, so we just increment the value for that key by 1. So now we have 2 and 2. But then what happens is next we have a 1 here, and so that would mean we initialize 1, having 1 appearance. And then we add 1 here, and then we add 1 here. That'll bring it to 3. And then what happens is we come to this 2, and we're like, oh, it's already in. We're going to just increment the value by 1 again. So we're going to have 3. And every single time we're checking if this value that we're updating is greater than majority. So when we get to this last element here, we're going to update 3 here to 4. And then we're going to check, and we're going to realize that the majority, this is in fact greater than the majority. And so because of that, we're going to return the key that is corresponding to that value. And then simply that is how we solve that problem. So yeah, that's pretty much the solution. This was a relatively simple question, to be honest. Hash table question. Honestly, this is a pretty beginner question. Most people should be able to solve this within their first month of LeetCode, hopefully. But anyways, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys learned something. If you guys think there's a better way to solve this one, please drop it down in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.